Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Lehigh University Sports Broadcasting Club podcast. I'm your host, Nick Deligtisch. I'm joined with Jaden Yohai and Alec Eskin. Today, we're going to be talking about this upcoming NBA playoffs for the 2024 season. Pardon me. We're going to go round by round, give our predictions, sort of react to the other people on the podcast and their predictions, and discuss what we think is going to be happening in this first, second, third, and NBA finals. So I'm going to go first for the first round. So starting with the Eastern Conference, I have the Celtics over the Bulls. I have the Bulls beating Miami tomorrow night. I think that without Jimmy Butler, they're a different team. I think Chicago is a little underrated. I saw how well they played against the Knicks in their last game. I think Chicago is going to get that 8 seed and get swept by the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics are just a different breed. They are really, really good. This is a different year for the Celtics. I'm a Knicks fan. I don't like them, but if they don't win the championship this year, then they never will. I think they're gonna sweep whoever they play in the first round. Even if it was Miami without Jimmy Butler, I would have Boston sweeping. I have the Magic over the Cavs in 6. I'm a Knicks fan. Like I said, I saw the Cavs last year in the playoffs. That is the softest team in the field. They are so soft. Like, I don't have a personal vendetta against them, but they played so terribly against the Knicks. They were a soft team against the Knicks. And I think Orlando's going to come out with a lot of energy. There are a lot of young players, and they're going to play really hard. And I think they're going to take it in 6. I think Boncaro is going to really dominate the Cavs. And they also have injury questions with Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. I have the Knicks over the 76ers in 6 games. My reasoning is the Knicks dominated the 76ers in the regular season. One of the 4 games Joel Embiid played, and the Knicks won by 30 something. Now, we did have Randall in that game. So the other 3 games, there were a lot of injuries, and the Knicks won 2 out of those 3. I think the Knicks are the better team. I think the 76ers are very tough. I could see them winning the series, but I think the Knicks will handle it in 6 games. And then for the Bucks and the Pacers, I have the Bucks in 7. I think the Pacers are a little underrated. They're a good team. They had a really good start to the season. Tyrese Halliburton has struggled lately, but I think he's going to get a little better come playoff time. And I think the Bucks are just kind of meh. I mean, they're a good team, but under Doc Rivers, they have been terrible. I think they squeak away out of the first round. Moving to the West, I have the Thunder over the Kings. I think the Kings are going to beat the Pelicans tonight. Regardless of if they play the Pelicans or the Kings, I have the Thunder in 6 games. Really young team. What a job from Sam Presti and their coach. They've been insane this year. I have them going to the second round. For the 4-5 matchup, I actually have the Mavericks over the Clippers. The Clippers have historically not been a good playoff team. And the Clippers, this is their 3rd time playing Dallas in the postseason in the last 5 or 6 years. They won both times. I think this is the chance for Dallas. They've won 9 out of their last 10. I think they're hot. I have the Nuggets over the Lakers in 5. I feel like the Nuggets are just miles above the Lakers. And then I have the Timberwolves over the Suns in 6. Every year, the Suns are betting favorites for their first round series or for the series after, even for the title. They're not for the title this year, but they're favorites over Minnesota. I think that's disrespectful to the Timberwolves. The Suns are overrated every year in the playoffs. I have the Timberwolves in 6. So after a long time talking for me, I will kick it over to Alec, and he'll give us his first round picks.
All right, now I got a few differences in my predictions, but and the first thing is that I think the Heat will win over the Bulls. It's just because I think they're in Miami. Eric Spoelstra is still coaching that team, regardless of whether Jimmy Butler is out. He's you could argue he's a top 3 coach in the league right now, and they have a bunch of solid players on the team like Caleb Martin and Bam Adebayo. I don't think the Bulls can handle that even with Jimmy Butler out. I say Heat win that game, but they lose to the Celtics in 5 because the Celtics. Honestly, I could argue that this is the best I've ever seen them. They just look so locked in, and they look so overwhelming against every other team in the Eastern Conference. Then I'm gonna say an upset. I'm gonna say the Sixers over the Knicks. First off, because the Knicks don't have Julius Randle, who is arguably their best player. I know they have Julius Randle. I know they have Dante DiVincenzo, but again, without your star player, generally teams are just not as good. And Joel Embiid came back for the Sixers. Maxi's playing really well. Oubre is playing really well. and so is Nico Batum. How about Nico Batum there last night against the Heat? Just lights out, and he's a guy who I believe plays his best when the lights are brightest. So I'll say the Sixers over the Knicks in 5 games because I think that there's usually one team that usually has a higher seed than what they deserve. I'm going to go with the Knicks there. I know, Nick. I know you're not very happy
Yeah.
with that, but
Can I just ask a question, Alec?
all right.
Like I think picking the Sixers is completely fair. Like it's not unreasonable. But you mentioned how Randall's out and they don't have that star player. Like, do you not know Jalen Brunson exists?
Yeah,
No,
Brunson's our best player, Alec, not
Yeah.
Randall.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, I love Brunson. I really do. He's a Nova guy, Philly guy. I love him, but I don't. I still question whether or not he can his shot creating skills and also being able to serve as more of a point guard will be good enough to win the series against the Sixers. And again, he's a really good skill guy. But again, I just don't know if that'll all be enough to beat the Sixers.
Keep going, Alec. You got me cracking up over here,
Yeah, I'm cooking right now. That's why.
but yeah, that's it. Go ahead.
And then I'm gonna say the Pacers over the Bucks in 6. Because here's the thing, Giannis is out to start off the series. It's Doc Rivers coaching that team who has been after he took over. That team has been on a downward spiral. Team was 13 and what was 30 and 13 when they fired Adrian Griffin, which I'm still not sure why they did that. And they hired Doc Rivers, who is notorious for playoff chokes, and took a really good Bucks team and ran into the ground. And I believe the Pacers are playing really well right now. I say that they'll win over the Bucks. I love Tyrese Halliburton, one of my favorite players. And then what happens after is that Doc Rivers starts making excuses because Giannis was at the start of the series. Now, now moving over, and then in the number 5, and then staying in the Eastern Conference, I see number 5 Magic went over number 4 Cavs and 6. The Magic again playing really well right now. A fast starting team that is the first time the playoffs in a long time, and it's been and again really and again that team I think they could definitely make some noise in the playoffs, and therefore I'll choose them over the Cavs at 6. And then moving into the Western Conference, I'll say number 1 Thunder over the number 8 Pelicans in 5. When I saw the Thunder were what they were doing, it reminded me a lot of the Sixers plan to rebuild, lose a lot of games, and get a bunch of first round picks. However, Sam Presti is a really good drafter, and he made a lot of really good trades. He looked at what the mistakes the Sixers made and made adjustments, and it's paying off for him right now. They still have a ton of first round picks, and that team is red hot. A lot of talent on that team, such as Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I say them over the Pelicans in 5. And then number 5 Magic over. I'm gonna say number 5 Magic over number 4 Clippers in 7. Again, I really like the Magic. I think that Jason Kidd's a very good head coach. I think he knows what he's doing, and the Clippers they can't seem to get right for some reason in the playoffs. Even with Kawhi and Paul George, they just can't seem to click. Even though Kawhi won with the Raptors, so I'll say them over the Clippers in 7. It'll come down to the wire. It's gonna be a close series. That could be the best series out of all the first round games. And then number 2 Nuggets over the number 7 Lakers. And 4, because here's the thing, I think the Lakers again are just not that good of a team. I think they're overrated. I think they keep getting lucky. And the Nuggets again, Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, a ton of really good players on that team. I could definitely see them repeating this year, and that's why I'm gonna go with them over the Lakers in a sweep in 4 games.
Who do you have for Timberwolves
Oh,
Suns?
I almost forgot. I have the Timberwolves over the Suns in 6.
Mhm.
Suns they'll put up a fight, but they're not really like they just can't seem to get right in the playoffs either. Like they can't seem to choke. And get Timberwolves, they've had really good years. They've had a really good year this year, which play much better than a lot of people expected. And I'll say that they'll win over the Suns in 6.
Yeah, I'm agree with you on that one, Alec. Like I said earlier, I think that the are kind of getting a little disrespected in the series. You know, obviously the Suns have they're really top heavy, like Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. That's really good, but they're not deep. And the Timberwolves are a better roster front to bottom, I would say. Regardless, I will kick it to you, Jaden, for your first round picks, and then we'll move on to the second round.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so I disagree with you guys a little there, but I'll go into that later. So yeah, I got the Celtics over the Heat in 5. The Heat don't have Butler in the playing game, and he's going to be out a little bit, but I agree with Alec. I still think they get it done against Chicago. And if the Celtics were to play Chicago, I'd also take them in 5. Chicago's actually, I think, a little underrated. So I think it could be a close 5-game series against the Celtics if they play each other, but I don't see them getting more than 1 game. I got the Knicks over the Sixers in 7. I think this is going to be a great series. The Knicks are a top 2 defense in the league. They're 3-1 against Philly this year. Brunson's been on an absolute tear. Philly got Embiid back. They got Maxey rolling. As Alec mentioned, Batum had a great game in the play-in. I think it's going to be a really tight series. I think it's just basically a pick 'em series, but I'll take the Knicks in 7. I think that home crowd in New York will push them over the edge in 7. Then I got the Pacers over the Bucks in 6. If Giannis were fully healthy, I'd probably take Milwaukee, but he's not. And in the past, Milwaukee's been, manageable without Giannis, but this year without him, they've been really bad. He missed the last 3 games. I saw parts of those games, and the offense just looked awful. And not only that, but Milwaukee can't defend, and Indiana has the top scoring offense in the league. So I just think it's a bad matchup for them, especially without Giannis. Also Milwaukee's 18-22 on the road, which is not a good road record. So, if Giannis misses the first 2 games and they split those games at home, then they gotta, beat a good Pacer team on the road. So I just don't really see it happening. And this is one that I was a little surprised you guys had. You guys have the Magic, but I have the Cavs over the Magic in 5. Um, the Magic really struggle to score. They don't have a very good offense. Also, the Cavs have a top 7 defense. They got really good defensive players in Mobley and Allen. And also the Cavs have experience. They were in the same spot last year, even though, Nick mentioned they did kind of get destroyed. I think they'll sort of learn from that in this series. And also, the Magic haven't really been to the playoffs in a little while and haven't been to the playoffs with this core. So I don't think they have experience, and I just don't think the Magic are that great, especially offensively. So we'll move to the West. I have the Kings winning the play-in. Zion isn't going to play for the Pelicans, which is just huge. So I got the Kings beating them, and then I have the Thunder over the Kings in 6. The Thunder are young. They've been awesome this year. A great regular season. The teams split the regular season series. Um, I think both teams won their home games, and the Kings are decent on the road. Plus the Kings have a little experience from last year, so I see them putting up a good fight, but I'll take the Thunder in 6. And then we got the Mavs and the Clippers. I have the Mavs over the Clippers in 6. I think Kawhi potentially being injured to start the series is going to be a big factor. If he were fully healthy, I'd probably take the Clippers in 7. But because he's not, I'll take the Mavs in 6. Luka and Kyrie are playing at an awesome level. Plus, as Nick mentioned, the Mavs could potentially get a little revenge in this series after being eliminated by the Clippers a couple times in the playoffs recently. Then I got the Nuggets over the Lakers in 5. The Nuggets have won 8 straight against the Lakers, dating back to last season. And they kind of just dominate that head to head in recent memory. I just think it's a bad matchup for LA. I'll give LA 1 game. They've been playing pretty well recently, and they got, some really good guys on their team. But it's just a bad matchup. And then I got the Suns over the Timberwolves in 6. The Suns are 3-0 against Minnesota this year. They've played pretty well as of late. And I think they'll win because the Timberwolves tend to struggle on the offensive end, especially down the stretch of games sometimes. They do have Cat back, which should help. Without Cat, I'd give them no chance. But I trust Phoenix to execute better offensively down the stretch of games. And the Timberwolves, in some of the games I've watched, they kind of have spurts where they're getting decent looks, but they're just missing them because a lot of their guys are really solid defensive players, but can't really knock down the open shot consistently. Ant-Man, I really like Ant, but I think, you know, he's, I'm not going to say he's overhyped, but, I'm not sure. I'm not even sure if he's as good as D Book yet. I mean, that's going to be a great showdown between the two top shooting guards in the league. But I just trust the Suns more on the offensive end. Plus, they're 3-0 against Minnesota this year, so I'll have them taking that series in 6.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with people picking the Suns. Like I thought about it. I originally picked them, and then I thought about the last 2 years where I picked them to win the finals, and then they went out early. So I picked Minnesota. But you make some great points there, Jaden. Regardless, we're going to move to the second round now, and I'll start with you, Jaden. Who do you have going to the Eastern and Western Conference Finals?
Yeah, for sure. So I got the Celtics over the Cavs in 5. I think this is kind of a straightforward pick. You guys have mentioned it, the Celtics are super talented. This is their most talented team ever. I think Porzingis and Holiday are great additions, and I just don't think the Cavs are going to be able to hang with them. Then I got the Knicks over the Pacers in 7. This is going to be another tough series for both teams. The Pacers won the season series 2-1. As I mentioned before, Indiana has the best offense in the league, but the Knicks have a great defense. They got a top 2 defense. Indiana has a bottom 4 defense, and the Knicks have more experience. So I got the Knicks in 7 again, and I think that's going to be a great series. Then I got a little bit of an upset here. I got the Mavs over the Thunder in 6. The Mavs have experience with Luka and Kyrie. They have a good supporting cast as they got some guys from the trade deadline, including PJ Washington. Daniel Gafford's had some solid minutes for them this year. And they closed the season strong, as Nick mentioned. And their guys rested, their starters rested the last 2 games because they were kind of set in stone with that 5 seed. So I think they're going to be well rested for a good playoff run. OKC starters were playing because they're trying to get that number 1 seed. And I just think they're a little young. I trust Luka and Kyrie a little more than Shea down the stretch of games, even though Shea's awesome and I'm a huge fan. And I have the Mavs taking that one. And then a rematch of last year, Nuggets versus Suns. I got the Nuggets in 6. Phoenix, I think this is going to be a really good series again, just like it was last year. Phoenix actually won the season series 2-1, including taking 2 games in Denver. And 1 game they didn't even have Booker. So I do think it could go either way. I also think that Nurkic tends to play well against Jokic in the games I've watched them 2 play. I remember watching them battle it out. This year, and Nurkic maybe had one of his best games. So I think it's going to be a really good series, but I'm going to favor the champs. I just trust Murray and Jokic down the stretch of games. So I got the Nuggets in 6.
Yeah, those are some solid picks. I gotta say, I have some similar picks to you, but I just want to mention for the Knicks and the Pacers, if I had Indiana beating Milwaukee, I would honestly pick the Knicks in 5. Like, I don't think it's close. In the regular season, in the 3 games that the Knicks played, the 2 losses, I don't think we had Julius Randle, OG, and I think one of them we didn't have Brunson. So I don't think the Pacers are even on the Knicks level. But regardless, I think the Knicks would win that series. I mean, they would definitely be the favorite. I also have the Celtics going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I wonder if anyone doesn't have the Celtics going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I have them over the Magic in 5. I feel like this will come to a point where Orlando's inexperience is just going to really daunt them in the series. I think the Celtics will go up 3-0 and then they'll win game 4 in Orlando and then they'll just take care of business at TD Center in Boston in game 5 and they'll win it in 5. I have the Knicks over the Bucks in 6. I think that if this was Indiana, it would be 5. But I feel like the Knicks are just a better team than Milwaukee right now. It might have been a different story right when they fired Adrian Griffin, but I think the Knicks are hotter. I think the Knicks have, they have enough experience. They have less experience than the Bucks do, but they have enough where it doesn't really matter. And I just feel like Doc Rivers just sucks in the playoffs. I don't feel like he sucks. It's just facts. He sucks in the playoffs. So I have the Knicks over the Bucks in 6. I think whoever wins the Knicks and the 76ers series is going to beat Milwaukee. If it was Indiana, I'm not really sure. Well, besides the Knicks over. Yeah, what I'm trying to say is if the Sixers somehow beat the Knicks, I feel like they would beat Milwaukee too. But regardless, I have the Knicks going to the Eastern Conference Finals. Moving over to the West, I actually disagree with OKC. If OKC played Dallas, I could totally see why Dallas would be the favorite. You know, Luka, Kyrie, two elite players with a lot of playoff experience. The Thunder don't really have that experience. But I just think the Thunder are such a good team that they can pull it out. I think that the Thunder win this series in 7 games, and I think they move on. And then I have the Nuggets over the Timberwolves in 6 games. I do feel like the Timberwolves have been disrespected, but I don't think they're on the same level as Denver. Give me Denver in 6 to go to the conference finals against OKC. So, Alec, I'm going to kick it to you for your semifinal predictions, and then we'll talk about the conference finals.
I mean, first 2 things. I mean, knowing Doc Rivers how poorly he does in the playoffs, I know that from personal experience. And also, you act like that the Sixers being the Knicks is out of the realm of possibility. I mean, it's pretty likely that they will.
Okay,
I
was being
I can see either
sarcastic.
team winning. Yeah,
I was being sarcastic. It's fair to pick the Sixers. I don't think it's fair to pick the Sixers in 5, but it's fair to pick the Sixers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they on I just looked on FanDuel. They have it exactly even. Both teams at
Yeah.
-110, so it's a true pick'em series.
Interesting. All right then. So I'm gonna say the Sixers over the Pacers in 6. Again, I think the Pacers will win the first round because they're playing the Bucks and Doc Rivers who notoriously does bad in the playoffs. They'll win 6. I think the Sixers have a lot more talent than the Pacers do, especially with Embiid back. And then Celtics over the Magic in 5. Again, pretty straightforward pick between you guys. Magic just don't have nearly as much talent as the Celtics do, and the Celtics have a lot more experience than the Magic do. Everything's pointing to the Celtics being the Magic in 5, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they swept them either. And then like Jay, I'm going to trust the Nuggets over, except I'm going to trust them over the Timberwolves in 6. Again, Nuggets a lot of experience, won a championship last year. Jokic and Murray down the stretch, you always trust them. They're always hot hands going late in games, I feel like that's an absolutely fair pick. And I'll say the Nuggets over Timberwolves in 6. And then finally, I'm gonna have the Thunder over the Mavericks in 6. I think that could be a closer series than a lot more people expect. But I could also see I could also see it being over in 5 or going to 7. Again, this could honestly be a good toss-up series because again, Mavericks have more experience than the Thunder, but the Thunder have more talent than the Mavericks. It just depends. I think I could see it going down to the battle of the coaches. Whether or not the coaching staff on the Thunder is better than the coaching staff on the Mavericks. But for now, I'm going to say Thunder over the Mavericks in 6.
Yeah, I agree with you on Thunder over Mavericks, of course. Moving on to the conference finals. So we have some interesting matchups here. I'll start with you, Alec. Who do you think is going to make the NBA finals?
So I'm in no uncertain terms. I'm going to say that the Celtics trounce the Sixers in 5. Whenever Boston and Philadelphia play each other, Boston always seems to win no matter what. And I think they got much better this year, while Philadelphia got worse. I think the Sixers are completely overmatched in that series, especially with Joe Mazzulla coaching that team. I think they win over the Sixers in 5. And then this is going to be an interesting one. I'm going to say the Thunder over the Nuggets in 7. Reason I say that is because I feel like repeat champions don't have that drive or that grit to try to get back because they did that same thing last year, and generally it's very hard to repeat outside the Warriors, the Bulls of the 1990s. And again, a lot of talent on the Thunder and a lot of talent on the Nuggets. I think it's going to be really an entertaining series when it gets to that.
Okay, so Celtics Thunder. Not a bad finals pick. Jaden, I'll kick it to you and then I'll wrap it up for the conference finals.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting, Alec. I So I mean, I can, the Thunder, they could do it. They just play such an interesting style of basketball. They play super fast. They got super quick guys. They got some guys who could defend. Shea actually leads the league. I think he led the league in steals this year. They got Lou Dort, who's an awesome defender. Plus they got Chet, Jay Williams. They just got a really good team. So I can see it happening. But I think, the safer pick is maybe with some other teams, but I'll get into mine. So yeah, I got the Celtics over the Knicks in 6. I want to pick the Knicks, of course, because I'm a big fan. But the Celtics just have a lot more talent, even though, we blew them out in Boston recently. If the Knicks had Randall, I think they'd really have a chance, especially with the Celtics' sort of shortcomings in the playoffs. They've really not met expectations in recent memory, but I just think they have too much. I mentioned it before, Porzingis, Holiday, great additions. So even, in games where Tatum's bad or Brown's bad, they still have other guys to pick up the slack. So I feel like in the past, if Tatum had a bad game or Brown had one of his games where, he had like 7 turnovers, they would lose. But now, they could still win those games. So I got the Celtics in 6, and then this is going to be a really fun one, I think. It might not happen, but I think it might. Nuggets, Mavs. I have the Nuggets in 7. I think it's going to be a great series. You got Luka and Jokic, who are arguably the two best players in the league right now. I think they are. Mavs also have Kyrie. I mentioned before they got great role players. And I just, again, I just trust Murray and Jokic a lot. I think they could for sure go back to back. Golden State did it somewhat recently. And yeah, I got the Nuggets in 7. I just, I can't pick the Nuggets in like any fewer games, I feel like, because I just don't think Luka's gonna let the Mavs lose at home in 6 or whatever. So yeah, I got the Nuggets in 7, and it's gonna be a great series.
Yeah, that would be an amazing series between two of probably, I was gonna say the two best European players, but you
Oh, for
could even
sure.
say the two best players overall in the NBA. But regardless, moving on to my picks for the Eastern Conference, I have the exact same thing as you, Jaden. I have the Celtics over the Knicks in 6, unfortunately. I will say, the Knicks have played really well against Boston this year. The one game where the Celtics came to the Garden, the score was a little deceiving. They were in that game for a while and they didn't have Randall. I don't think they had OG either. And they kept it close for a while. The Knicks recently went to Boston and destroyed the Celtics. Obviously, who knows if the Celtics were playing hard, but they had all their starters playing, so it is what it is. But I just still think the Knicks, especially with Randall, are like they're not one player away in general, but I think they're one player away of beating Boston, if you get what I'm saying. They're not a player away from winning a championship. I just think they're a player away from beating a team like Boston. And it's unfortunate that Julius Randle is out for the season because I don't know what could happen if he was. You know, I could be biased and say the Knicks, but I'm not going to do it. I have the Celtics in 6 games. I think the Knicks will keep it close in every single game they lose, but unfortunately, I think it'll be in 6. In the Western Conference, I have the Nuggets over the Thunder in 6 games. This is when it comes to a point where I can't pick the Thunder 3 times in a row. Like I can pick them against the 8 seed for sure, against Sacramento in 6. I can pick them against Dallas in 6. I think this is where it gets to a point where it's a little excessive. I think Denver, being the defending champions and being in the playoffs every year before they won the championship, and having a guy like Nikola Jokic, I think that's going to put them over the edge in Oklahoma. I have them beating the Thunder in 6 games and moving to the finals, creating a matchup of the Nuggets and the Celtics. So we're
Yeah,
going to move.
yeah, I was gonna say, Nick,
Yeah, go ahead.
I like your reasoning. I like those picks, especially if the Thunder and the Nuggets get there. I feel like the Nuggets have too much size with Gordon plus Jokic. The Thunder have really struggled against size this year. They lost the season series to LA 3-1, and LA kind of just dominated them on the glass. And I mean, what they're gonna have Chet guard Jokic? I mean, come on, give me a break there. So yeah, I like that pick.
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to go first for the NBA Finals. Now, I have the Nuggets and the Celtics. You have two teams, arguably the two best teams in the league this year. You know, the Nuggets are the defending champions. I hear it. The defending champs typically don't like have that will, that drive to really do it again. I disagree. I mean, we've seen it in other sports. We saw it with UConn this year. They were the defending champs and they steamrolled everybody. Shout out UConn. I'm from Connecticut. Anyway, that's college basketball. Back to the NBA. I feel like I've picked against defending champs every single time. And the way this bracket works out, I think that Denver goes back to back. Boston, this is their best team by far throughout their core. And they should be in everybody's NBA finals, I would say. But I just have a tingling feeling about the Celtics where they're just not going to get it done. I feel like they have a really good team, but they can never put it together. I think this is going to be the farthest they'll go. I have the Nuggets in 6 games. I think every single game is going to be super close. In their Warriors series in the 2022 NBA Finals, I feel like nearing after the Warriors went down 2-1, I think those 3 games that Golden State won, they kind of dominated in most of them. I think it'll be closer, but I just trust Denver more than Boston in the playoffs. And I think that that team is just as good as the team last year. I think that the Nuggets are going to be the NBA champions back to back and beat the Celtics. So I'll kick it to you, Alec, and then I'll have Jaden wrap it up for the NBA Finals.
All right. So this is gonna be an interesting pick. So I'm gonna say the Thunder are gonna be the NBA champs this year, which is kind of bizarre to me considering that I absolutely did not expect this to happen. I thought it was completely out of the realm of possibility. But to their credit, they played really well this year. I think they're able to finish off against Boston because again, Boston. I don't think that I think once it gets to the Eastern Conference Finals and that finals portion of the year, they always seem to fall short or choke. One of those two things, or something always goes wrong. And it's either because I think Jalen Brown, again, I don't think Jalen Brown is a good player in the clutch. I think he got exposed last year against Miami. He can't dribble to his left. He isn't a great shooter, and Miami used it against him, and they were able to pull off a huge upset against Boston. And this year, I think that again, Thunder, I think they're a great defensive team. And I think that Alexander and the rest of that lineup is rock solid. And I think they're able to finish. And again, great coaching staff there too. So I think they're able to finish it off and win the NBA title.
I'm not against OKC at all. I have them in the Western Conference Finals. I personally think it's a little early for them. They missed the playoffs by a game last year. This is their first time being in the playoffs, so I would be really shocked if they won the championship. But I'm a Thunder believer. I think that they're very good. Regarding Boston, I obviously also have Boston losing the finals. But Jaden, I'll kick it to you and we'll wrap up this podcast.
Yeah, so I agree with parts of what both you guys were saying, actually. I agree with you, Nick. I think they're just a little too young, and it's hard for me to see them getting through all of these teams. But I do agree with Alec in the Boston part. I just think they have a way of coming up short, which is why I got the same pick as Nick. I got the Nuggets over the Celtics in 6. So they actually swept the season series against Boston. They beat them 2-0 with the great regular season that Boston had, 64 wins. 2 of those losses came against Denver. Um, and I was actually watching the game in Boston that Denver was playing against them. And just watching that game, I almost felt like I was seeing a finals preview. And just Boston sort of doing what they do down the stretch of games. The execution, they were actually ahead down the stretch, and the execution on offense was terrible. Um, Maybe you guys know this game, but Tatum, they had like 5 seconds left down 2, and Tatum just jacked up some contested 20-foot
Yeah,
range
I
shot,
remember
and it
that.
wasn't even close. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think the Nuggets will execute better down the stretch. When Jokic and Murray go into that pick and roll, it feels like it's almost always a bucket somehow. And I just don't really trust the Celtics. So yeah, I got the Nuggets over the Celtics in 6 games.
Yeah, I remember. I actually caught the end of that game. I didn't watch that whole game, but I remember the ending of that game. I think it was the Celtics' first home loss of the season.
Yep,
I
yep,
think,
it
yeah.
was.
I
Yep.
remember that final possession with Boston thinking, what the hell is he doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Tatum missed a layup too to like
Yeah.
lead.
Mhm.
It just to me it was just I wasn't even surprised because I was just like that's just kind of what they do sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, that's gonna conclude this NBA playoff prediction podcast. Shout out to Jaden, Alec for joining me as always. And thank you guys for watching. So we will see you in the next one. Take care.
peace.